So it's a real lonely world out there, specifically if you're an independent financial advisor. But even I think, when you are sometimes you work for a product provider or you're in some sort of a franchise setup, this tends to be a very lonely game. And if there is something and somebody you need in your corner, I would say it is somebody that genuinely cares. And it is someone that needs to be there for you, and somebody who really gets in your corner. And that's what I'm excited about today. And my guest is exactly what they've done, and they've built an incredible platform. And I want to talk about that and a whole host of other things with her. But before I give it all away, let's start the show. Good morning. Welcome back. Another show, another week. Can you believe we are at the start of June? It is absolutely mind-boggling for me to think how quickly time is flying and that we're halfway there. We're probably now, this is episode 16 of season 3 already. And it's just mind-blowing how quickly all of this is going past. But anyway, so really excited to have you here today. I hope that you're enjoying a warm coffee this morning and that you are ready for another incredible show. My guest this morning is Georgina Smith from Innate, and I can't wait to speak to her. I've had the privilege of meeting her before and actually talking to her on a panel, and it was so mind-blowing. I thought, got to talk to her some more and get more insights, because, if there's a panel, there's too many other people as well. So really excited to just spend some time with Georgina later this morning. Then we have Seema from the FPI sharing with us the latest current affairs, and we have Norma with Coach's Corner, and she is going to talk to us about when it feels like nothing is working. And we all have gone through that, right? So really excited for that one. And then Louis van der Merwe has joined us today as well, and he is talking about helping clients deal with grief. So what an amazing morning ahead of us. And without any further ado, just a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you. Say hi in the comments and chat, and share your opinions as we go through this morning. But with that, let's head on over to Seema and hear what the latest are for our profession.
Good morning, Francois. Thank you for having us again. I'm coming to you from a very cold Centurion this morning. In the news today, the FSCA imposes administrative penalties on Bright Advisors South Africa and Mr. Nigel Green. The Financial Sector Conduct Authority has imposed administrative penalties of 10 million rand on Bright Advisors South Africa and 2.5 million rand on Mr. Nigel James Green. The investigation revealed that Bright, which was formerly known as De Vrije Investment South Africa and De Vrije SA Accuma, during the period of February 2010 and August 2015, contravened various financial sector laws. The FSCA, after having considered representations from Bright, decided to impose an administrative penalty of 10 million in terms of Section 1671A of the Financial Sector Regulation. Alternatively, Section 6A of the Financial Institutions Protection of Funds, and withdrew Bright's FSP license under FSP number 23719, Category 1 and 2 in terms of Section 91 of the Financial Advisory and Intermediary Services Act. Moving on to the flood claims that has ravaged parts of KZN as reported on moneyweb.co.za. Santam and All Mutual Insure are wading through the over 7,000 KZN flood claims. The short-term insurers tally up the costs of what one major player describes as by far the largest natural catastrophe in its history. Short-term insurers are only now starting to add up the damages caused by the floods that hit KwaZulu-Natal during April and the second bout of heavy rains that fell during May. Two of the larger insurers, Santam and All Mutual Insure, have indicated that they have received thousands of claims. Santam told MoneyWeb 2 weeks ago that it had received 5,000 claims, while other insurers are still adding up their numbers. Satric appoints new CEO. Index tracking investment product and exchange traded funds provider Satric has appointed Fikile Mbokoto as its new chief executive officer effective 1 June 2022. Mbokoto, who is a member of the Institute of Directors, South Africa, has taken over from Reese Brees, Chief Financial and Operational Officer at Sanlam Investments, who had been acting CEO after Helena Conradi stepped down from the role in 2021. Then, breaking news from the desk of the South African Revenue Services on their new readiness program. SARS is embarking on a new journey with registered tax practitioners and controlling bodies. As of the 1st of June 2022, will roll out the SARS readiness program with the assistance of controlling bodies. The SARS readiness program will inform tax practitioners of their rights and obligations. It is an education program and will ensure that tax practitioners are equipped to meet the challenges facing them when representing taxpayers. The program is a prerequisite for any individual seeking to register as a tax practitioner from the 1st of July 2022. And that, Francois, is the news. Back to you.
Awesomeness. Righty. So next up, we have Norma, and she's back with Coach's Corner. And today she's going to give us some tips and help us share with us what to do when it feels like nothing is working. And Norma, over to you.
Good morning. So my topic for today is when it feels like nothing is working. And I'm so glad, Francois, that you could relate to this. Then I know it's not only me that is dealing with these issues every now and then. So when it feels like nothing is working, it's a horrible feeling. And we have that feeling that it is so pervasive, it's permanent, and it's personal. So not only is it not working in our business, it's not working in our life. And it feels like it's so permanent, it's going to last forever. And also, it's not only that this is not working, we sometimes make it mean we are not working. So I want to share a couple of things why we're doing it, and also how we can get past this or keep taking action even though we have this feeling like nothing is working. So the reason why we have this is, sometimes when we think back of how our brains was designed, our brain is wired for survival. So we're always basically looking around us, looking for, threats or dangers. And we have to look around us and see what is not working so that we can stay alive. But our brain has not caught up with us being in an environment where we're actually quite safe, majority of the time. So we have to intentionally, direct our brain to what is working. So a couple of things that I want to share with you that we can do when we have this feeling like nothing is working, that we can keep taking action and not really waste that time to sit in that place of, nothing is working. So firstly, I think we need to recognize that our life is 50-50. So 50% of the time, it's great, it's amazing, we have all these positive emotions. And 50% of the time, it's the negative emotions. It's all the discomfort, all the doubt, maybe all the, feeling discouraged, maybe feeling unmotivated, uninspired. But we can also know that, half of the time it's good. And we have to, allow and experience these negative emotions. Because if we're going to keep on resisting it and pushing it away, it's just going to come back stronger. So it's the worst thing we can do is not to allow it. So when it comes up, just recognize it. Oh, okay, this is a day of frustration or nothing is working. And let me just allow and experience it. Another thing we can do is just to pause for a moment and just look at the scenario. So what is it exactly that isn't working? So as I mentioned in the beginning, as we think it's our whole life is not working. So what about our life is not working? Okay, well, it's really just my business. And what about my business isn't working? No, it's really just my marketing that isn't working. And what about my marketing that isn't working? Okay, it's just this ad campaign that I did on Facebook and I didn't get the response that I wanted. So instead of it being this big problem, we've now sort of diluted it to the exact problem. So another thing that we can focus on is, to look at the confusion, because we can sometimes indulge in being confused when we tell ourselves, I don't know how, or I don't know how to move forward. And that's really like the worst thing we can tell ourselves, because if I tell myself that, I'm confused, I don't know how, then, I really close myself off to any like wisdom that I have already inside of me. And I close myself off to any creativity. So instead of saying, I don't know how, rather replace it with something like, I'm figuring it out, or I'm becoming a better marketer or a communicator, or whatever the problem is. And then lastly, just to know that I don't have to wait to feel amazing and inspired and motivated to actually take action, that I can do it anyway. So that's why we have to make plans. We have to make sure all of those plans are in our diaries, so that the only thing we can really do is then take action on it. And know that if I don't feel like it, I don't really, it doesn't really matter if I feel like it or not. I need to do it anyway. So just to put everything together is, like, we have a human brain. It's always going to offer us things that's maybe not helpful or maybe not serving us. Our brain is motivated by seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, and conserving energy. And just lastly, that the things we practice the most is going to be the things that we notice the most or we focus on the most. So if I keep focusing on the things that's not working, I'm going to see more of the things that's not working. Whereas if I focus on what is working, I'm going to see more of what is working. So that's what I have for you today. Thanks for being here. Have a good weekend.
Awesomeness. Alrighty, moving along swiftly. Just a couple of announcements very quickly, and these are more thanks and just sort of giving you a heads up on a couple of things. So let's do this. The next week's episode is going to be a very, very special one, because it will be done from the UK, and I'm not going to give away the exact location, but I can tell you this: it is going to be impressive. It's going to be something you haven't seen before. I can't wait for that. I hope I'm not going to be so overwhelmed that I can't do a proper job. But do join us next week, Friday at 7 a.m. South African time, and don't miss that one. Bring everyone, even your wife and your dog and your children and your husband. Bring them all. Righty, so then just a second thing quickly. On this past Wednesday, the 1st of June, what we did was we had the Day of CPD, which was sort of the last part of the Global Financial Planning Conference, and that was very successful in my opinion. The whole speaker and influencer program, we had over 20 South Africans complete that, speak at the conference, and boy, did we, and sad to say, well, not sad, I'm glad to say, and maybe Adam will sort of not agree with me, but I think the South Africans dominated the awards evening as well. Really, we had this global awards event afterwards, which we really took away a lot of the awards, but not to take away anything from any of the other speakers. Like, it was such a hard job for the panel to choose the winners this year, and we had phenomenal nominees, and just the standard was just absolutely fantastic. Anyway, let me not blow that up too much, but I think from that point, all of the content from Wednesday will be made available at the end of June, or by the end of June, on our online learning platform, as well as all the other content that we promised that will be on there, so you can get access to 18 CPD points, verifiable CPD points nonetheless, and you'll have access, everybody that had a ticket will have access to that until the 31st of May 2023. So that's that. Then the last thing, please go check out PROpulsion Pro. It's our community for financial planners, and we really would like to welcome you there, and a whole host of benefits. We've got so many things coming on. Just today, again, somebody else came to me and said they want a partner, or they confirmed. We've had this discussion before, and they are asking me to if they can become part of the benefits that we offer, and we said, yes, it will be great. So another technology provider is coming on board. So really excited about that, apart from all the other amazing things we do. So please go check out propulsion.co.za/pro. Righty, so on that note, I'm going to hand over next to Louis van der Merwe. Louis is here to talk about beyond financial planning, and his topic today is how we can help clients deal with grief. And really looking forward to this one, a very special one. And Louis, I'm going to hand over to you.
Good morning, Francois. And I think today's topic fits in so nicely with what Norma was saying around sometimes things just feel like it's not working. And often for me, it feels like when we're dealing with clients that have just lost their spouse or loved one, it is extremely difficult and nothing we say can help. And so today, I want to share a little bit of the work that Amy Florian is doing, and I'll delve into that. Why saying something like, I'm so sorry, does not help. But I think I'm going to leave you with some helpful items and some helpful things that you can start using with family members or friends or clients when they're dealing with grief and the loss of a friend or family. And so the first thing I want to touch on is this grief response. It's a very natural response for the loss of a part of your life. And Strubert should talk about oscillating between two different stages. And the one is confronting grief, right? So it's working with that loss-orientated behavior, thinking about your partner, thinking about your spouse, holding on to their memories, expressing the feelings. But at the other time, or the other side, it's just really seeking distraction, wanting a little bit of a break from these heavy emotions. And so that's really what we call a restorative behavior. It's almost like starting to work on some of the administration pieces. And sometimes it might even be helping a client to fill in a life insurance claim. And so you'll see your clients bounce between these two. But what can you say that's helpful? So let's start with the things that's not helpful. And so Amy Florian, in her book, No Longer Awkward, gives us a ton of valuable information. And she starts with, when you ask someone how they're doing and they say, fine, her response is, oh, frightened, insecure, neurotic, exhausted. I'm not so sure that that's good. Tell me how you're really feeling. The second one is really the I'm so sorry. It changes the narrative between what that person is going through to they're almost having to console you, right? It turns into an apology. It also stops the conversation. It's almost like, I'm so sorry, and now I can get to move on, and you are stuck dealing with this. We had a client yesterday said that if one more person asks her, how are you holding up? She's going to throttle them. And I think it's valuable to stop and ask the conversation, what is helpful in those times? Often it's not helpful for that person to hear, I know how you feel. Because let's face it, you don't. Your situation, even though it might be similar, is very different from what they're going through. Other times we hear clients saying, oh, at least that person is no longer suffering. That, once again, also not very helpful. And so I want to work through some of the items that she's saying. She has about 17 of them, and I'll highlight them. The first one, which is a good response that I think we can default to, is, I can't imagine what it's like for you. Would you like to tell me about it? Oftentimes, dealing with widows or widowers, they have the sense that they just want to share what they are going through, and asking permission, asking them, are you comfortable to share this with me? Obviously, it has to come from a place of good intention. Get them to start talking about it. Then secondly is say the name of the person. Don't be scared to name the person that just passed away. We often hear from clients that they say they want to make sure that their spouse and partner is not forgotten. And through saying their name, even though those memories might be painful, it brings some kind of relief to know that that person is still important and is still part of the conversation. A third one that she mentions is, I know your grief won't be over in a week, a month, or even a year. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep breathing. This will take a long time, and I'm here for you. And I think so many of these responses is around being there for the person, not through a general, oh, phone me whenever you need anything, but turning it around, saying, can I help you with this specific thing? I know your daughter goes for swimming lessons on a Friday afternoon. Can I go and pick her up? Oftentimes that person is in such a state that they can't think clearly about the things that they have to do in their normal lives. So look for specific areas that you might make it a little bit easier. She also touches on you have enough on your plate right now. Don't add to it. We want to protect our clients in a time when they are grieving so that they can allow space to grieve, so that they're not just rushing through everything. But ultimately, by grieving, you do not prolong the process. Then she mentions our purpose together is to help you achieve your goals. And there's another one that talks about, I will be here for you in a professional capacity to make this process a little bit easier, to do what I can. And so this grieving process really is the process of unlearning the presence of the person that's no longer there. And I want to end with a quote from her where she says, you still have a future. It's just a very different one from the one that you planned. I hope that this will be helpful when you're dealing with someone that has lost someone close to them. I'm happy to share the link with Francois that can put it in the show notes for Amy Florian's book, No Longer Awkward. You can find it on Amazon, or you can reach out to me and we can have a conversation. And hopefully it would prompt a better response and bring a little bit of relief. Thank you, Francois.
Alrighty, that was a fantastic few segments already this morning. I hope you're enjoying this and that your coffee is still hot, or get a refill, why not? So next up is my guest, Georgina, and I'm going to introduce her and welcome her on the other side of this. Really excited to chat to her, and I heard a rumor that she applied for a Guinness Book of World Records record. So I'm definitely going to ask her about that, whether she wants to talk about it or not. I'm going to try and get it to. So if you want to find out what that is, stick around. I'll see you on the other side of this. Good morning, Georgina. Warm welcome to the show.
Good morning, Francois. How are you?
I'm good. It's a little bit chilly, right? It's definitely winter's here. It's not coming anymore. I think it is here.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. It's chilly down here in Cape Town, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, my daughter is down there, so yeah, it's definitely not fun these last couple of weeks or so. Although, like Cape Town is very interesting. Sometimes it's just like the worst weather ever, and then suddenly it's like, whoa, what happened? Like, this is fantastic. Let's go to a wine farm or something. Or you get in the water and you want to go and swim. So I would rather go drink wine.
Once you're wet, you're wet. It doesn't really matter
Yeah.
what the weather's doing. But remember, you're talking to an English chick here.
Okay.
The weather here is tropical compared with where I'm from. So it's all relative.
Awesome. Georgina, yeah, as I said, warm welcome. Really excited to be able to talk to you today and sort of get into the journey. I think there's quite a few things that we can talk about, because you've been on this journey for, if I'm not mistaken, for about 4 years, building a new investment platform literally from the ground up. And I want to talk a little bit about your background, where you come from, because you're not from, like, this isn't where you started off, right? So this happened when you came to South Africa, if I'm not mistaken, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. And you've got quite an interesting story that led up to starting on this journey with creating a platform. And then I want to get into, so there's loads that we are going to talk about. But first off, let's just quickly talk about this whole Guinness Book of World Records. What happened? What is this about? Like, quite keen to hear that.
We'll get the interesting stuff out of the way first, shall we? So yeah, I mean, look, I as you mentioned, I do a fair bit of swimming. Again, something I took up when I moved to South Africa. I was never a particularly great swimmer back in England, and I took up open water swimming. And on the back of lockdown, you remember when we came out of that time where you just, we were locked up. And I used to do a bit of pool swimming. I did a little bit of open water swimming, and a friend of mine said, let's try and swim around Cape Point. So that was my first big open water swim. That was about 8K. And then I built up and I did a bit of Robben Island stuff, and I swam Robben Island a couple of times, and that was also quite successful and horribly cold. And there's a couple of articles on my LinkedIn profile about that. And then a friend of mine said, you know what? Why don't we try and swim across False Bay? And I thought that was bonkers, particularly for someone who grew up swimming in a disgusting pool, probably infested with verrucas in the UK. So suddenly to move to swimming 35 kilometers in water that's somewhere hovering between 12 and 14 degrees without a wetsuit, that was quite a challenge. So no one has ever swum False Bay in a two-person relay, not a male pair and not a woman pair. And the reason behind that is because you have very different challenges. There's been a few solo attempts and some successes, but nobody's ever done it as a two-person relay. And the reason is because you have to go through these things called after drops. So you go and you swim for an hour, and your partner gets in for an hour. And while you're out on the boat and your partner is swimming, you're having to go through what they call an after drop, which is that horrible, uncontrollable shivering that you have to go through probably for about 20, 25 minutes. You have to eat, rehydrate, and then get back in. And it's the getting back in that's really hard. And when you've got to do that about 5 times, it becomes pretty wearing. So back on the 1st of March, the weather window opened for us. We had the northwesterly we needed. We had the boat lined up. The two of us were in peak condition. And at about 6:30 a.m., we set off. And Kirsty, my dear friend, she kicked us off. And then there started the hour in, hour out. And just going through those after drops, getting back in again, swimming for an hour hard, and getting to the other side. 35 kilometers later, when you feel like you're going at a snail's pace, we made it onto the shore. Having started at Miller's Point, we finished at Royale's, and we were greeted by friends and family, and it was an amazing experience. So yes, so that's what we did, and it feels pretty cool now. You look back at it and you think, I can't believe I did that.
I really hope that very soon I'll be able to say, I know a person that has their name in this amazing book for what they've done. It's just amazing. I'm just thinking like, once you're wet, but I prefer to be wet on the inside, not on the outside. So, but it's really like without joking and without taking anything, it's really, really amazing to think what's possible. And were there times like, while you were doing this and it was your turn, or when you were on the boat, where you went like, what am I doing? What is it like, any point that you have thought like you're going to give up or not? Is it just like, no ways, we've come too far?
It's a very mental game. And actually, ironically, we had to deal with, you train for everything. You scenario plan. What happens if I see a shark? What happens if I have to go through a whole load of jellyfish? What happens if the water just gets really cold and you hit a cold patch and you just can't get warm afterwards? You've trained for all of these scenarios. Ironically, it was something else that actually threw us out. And it was very sad. We were raising money for a charity. We raised nearly 100,000 Rand for a charity called Swim for Rivers, which is a wonderful charity set up by my dear friend, Craig Doonan, who set this charity up, which aims to get water to rural areas, clean water to rural areas in South Africa. And we raise money to buy hippo rollers and drill well points, boreholes. And it's a wonderful, wonderful charity. Craig was the person who introduced me to open water swimming. He's incredibly special to me. But in line with what Louis was talking about just now, unfortunately, Craig passed away the weekend before we swam. So he passed away on the Sunday and we swam on the Tuesday. There is nothing worse than swimming with that emotional grief, and just trying to get through a really hard swim like that. And knowing that your goggles are filling up with salty water, but it's actually not from the sea, it's from you. So it was a very, very tough time, and it's a scenario we couldn't ever plan for. Both of us were incredibly close to Craig, and so ultimately it became a very personal swim, a very tough swim, but a very important swim. And completely dedicated to Craig, and so wonderful that we were able to raise so much money for his charity. So I the mental battle we had to go through, which we weren't expecting to go through, was far harder than the physical battle of hitting those cold patches, trying to get through after drops, feeling that your arms are going to fall off. All of that, I swam through some jellyfish, all of that sort of stuff, it kind of pales into significance when you think of what you're doing it for and who you're doing it for.
Just no, that's powerful. I hope there's a book coming about this at some point, because I think it's a powerful story, and it's. Yeah, I don't even. I mean, I'm out of words now. I don't even know how to respond.
I hope I haven't brought it down. But
No.
in all seriousness, mental health is, and this was, something that Craig suffered from. Mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. And not that this podcast is about that, but maybe we come back on a different day and we do talk about that. But it 9 hours 42 in freezing cold water gives you a lot of time to be thinking about, goodness me, this feels like something the world is starting to talk about, but maybe not as much as we should.
Yeah. And it is a way, to drive that awareness, because I think, and often, there was a time where I went through some things, and it's always like your stuff is the worst, right? And then you don't really get that, well, one, others are also going through it. And then secondly, that, in comparison, what is your problem? That person has got it much worse probably, or, so it's all those kind of things. I think that one learns as you go along. But often you don't even realize that you have maybe a problem, or maybe but you don't want to recognize and acknowledge that. But it is quite an important thing. And I think particularly when one is in business, be it, and for me, when you work for commission, I see it pretty much that you're in business for yourself, although you are probably self-employed. But as soon as you have a team of people and you start doing all sorts of things, there's no time to sort of think about those things, I think, often, and we just choose to ignore it.
I couldn't agree more. And you mentioned it at the top of the show, Francois. Being in business, being a business owner, even if you've got a large team around you, it can feel incredibly lonely. It can really feel like you're on your own. So when you go through something like COVID, when you go through unsettling periods, that loneliness almost kind of amplifies. And often financial advisors are the first people, or some of the first people, to realize that a business owner is going through some troubled times. Louis talked about grief there, but there's other language as well, and other telltale signs that can tell any financial advisor, oh yeah, there might be a problem here. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know what you said, this isn't what this show is about, this episode, but it's leading very nicely now into, sort of, if we can get into what this is about, because this is about, partnering, being in someone's corner, and how to really take hands with people and say, how do we make things better for you? And I mean, a big way in which you are doing this, and you're a big part of this, is the new Innate platform. And I say new, but you've been busy with this for 4 years, and 2 of those years were very long, thanks to COVID. But before we get into that, what did you do before then? Because you were into, there was some dentistry stuff and things there, if I remember correctly. But what were you into before, and then how did you land up getting involved with this initiative?
Yeah, so back in the UK, you're absolutely right, Francois. I only joined financial services when I moved to South Africa 6 years ago, and as you say, sort of 4 years in the platform. And gosh, you might say, gosh, why are we talking to her? What on earth can she know? You usually hear these CVs of 20 years in the industry and all of that kind of stuff. And it comes back to this thing of, we talked about getting in the advisor's corner to understand what advisors are dealing with. It's really important you do understand what they face every day. Now, so you're absolutely right. My background is dentistry. My husband's a dentist. I trained as an accountant many years ago, worked in corporate. Then my husband and I set up a dental practice, and then several more. And what I found was there were some challenges, some real challenges, and it was a very bumpy ride. And by the time we sold our dental practice, we actually had one of our practices was the biggest dental practice and the most successful dental practice, but certainly serving the most patients of any privately owned independent dental practice in the southeast of England. Now, what's important about that is it didn't start off like that. So you go through that growth curve of getting there. Now, why is this important, and why is dentistry? What on earth does dentistry have to do with advisor firms and those advisors who are listening and watching today? And the reason is, when I was running those practices, every day I was dealing with the same sort of things that advisors are dealing with. I was dealing with what's my client value proposition? Who is it I'm actually serving? Am I going to, are my staff going to turn up when they said they were going to turn up? When you get that in those days, it was SMSs, not WhatsApps, but SMS at 2:00 in the morning saying someone's sick. I had a ton of compliance I had to deal with. I had prima donna dentists who wouldn't work in such a way. I know there's some owners definitely have prima donna advisors that they have to manage. And then you've got the whole building side of things, and where are my next clients coming from? Where am I? What's my marketing strategy? How am I going to get more people in through the door? And then across it all is, what is that client or what's that patient experience when they come through the door? How am I looking after them? How am I making them feel? And is it in line with my client value proposition, who I'm actually serving? So all of this I had to deal with. And with a lot of speed bumps along the way, I became quite successful at it. Now, how does this translate into what I came in to do now? Throughout all of this, I've always had a really strong training background. I did a lot of training for large corporates, and a lot of the time it was in finance for non-financial managers, explaining stuff along those ways, but also leadership and team building, especially from a sporting background that I have. So all of this was sort of the package that I brought to South Africa to go in search of a really fantastic lifestyle that we've managed to build ourselves here. And when I came to Innate, and it really was a chance meeting, what I could bring to the table and what Innate built itself around was understanding what advisors are going through. Because until you can actually understand the problems that they have in their practice, and let's be honest, there's lots of large corporate providers out there that build products that shunt them out the door and think that'll work. Until you actually understand what advisors are going through in their practices and understand the problems they face, you can't build the thing that's going to solve those problems. And what I'd like to think is, in a totally different sphere, but in lots of parallel ways, I definitely understand the kind of challenges that advisors face day in, day out. And particularly from that loneliness perspective, particularly from that, am I doing the right thing? Where are my next clients coming from? That's the thing that I think is so important.
Yeah, and I mean, where does one even start? What was the reason that, there's many investment platforms around, some of them are, granted, I would assume very archaic, and there's a lot of legacy and things there. But what was sort of the main prompt to say, there is an opportunity for I want to call it a new generation, no baggage, from the ground up, newly built investment platform? Like what was the thing that said to Innate, like, guys, we've got to do this, and there's a big opportunity for this?
Oh, for sure. A great question, Francois, because you're right. Every platform out there at the moment, apart from Innate coming through, which is an old bank platform or an old life platform, and they've been butchered and sliced and diced to be tried to fit into something that might fit an advisor. So in the case of our old platform, Standard Lisp, it's kind of an old life system, really, which we've tried to butcher. And what happens is you can't service it correctly, you can't do upgrades very well. Every piece of regulatory improvement, it takes you a long time to develop it. So you're just not future fit. And not only that, you're delivering an experience that isn't designed around the advisor. So what we did was we said, okay, let's not take an existing system. Let's try and build something from a blank sheet of paper. What is it that advisors really want? What is it that's going to make their lives easier? And we got advisors in the room. And we kept getting advisors in the room to ask them, is this the kind of thing you want? How can we make this journey as digital as possible for you? If we think about the journey with the withdrawal, should it be like this or should it be like that? And with with all of that information and regular kind of feedback, the idea of being advisor inspired was truly developed and lived and still lives as we develop Innate further and further. So it really was a completely new way of doing things and building things in South Africa. It was really building it with the advisor in mind.
And I want to be like totally open. You know what got me to pay attention to Innate? Apart from like when you go to the website, it says advisor inspired. I think that's absolutely amazing. And it's an absolute true statement. But I think what really caught my attention was also, and I mean, I guess this is because you're a trainer at heart, or you've done this so many times as well, is the support that you give. Because, often you find, I don't know why, I think the life companies and so forth have always done training and offered workshops and things like that. So, when asset managers and investment managers do that, it felt to me, anyways, the ones that I got invited to back in the day was a lot more about product and funds and, what's happening in the economy and, investment updates and those kind of things. But you guys are doing a lot of things differently. You are actually focusing on practice management and doing these value-added webinars, and I call them value-added. Yes, they give CPD, for those of you who wondered. I wish CPD would go away because people are doing things for the wrong reasons. But there's this amazing, amazing content, and you get amazing people in the room, to talk to them and to share these ideas and to share best practices and that. And I think that is commendable, and we need more of that. I guess the question around that long piece of sentence that I just spit out is that intentional, or is it just because it's a passion? Why are you doing that? Because that's actually, it is kind of related to what the system and the platform does, I suppose. But why did you choose to go that route instead of just let us teach you our platform, let you teach us about our funds and all of this? Like, what was the reasoning for that?
Yeah, and you're so right. And I guess I come back to my dentistry days as well. It's about the experience. It's about how you make people feel. When you go to the dentist, you can walk in, you can have a filling, you can walk out, and it can be a pain and just a pretty average or painful experience. But actually, if you were to come into me and I was to have already made you your favorite drink, then I was to engage with you, and we were to then take you to a room where you'd be made to feel very comfortable and well supported. And then we take you upstairs to the room. There's a lovely smell in the room. It doesn't smell of dental practices. You have a nice blanket so that you don't get cold. A lot of people get cold when they're under anesthetic. It's all of that extra that makes you want to come and be with me and part of my tribe. And it's exactly the same with the platform. It's not a product that we just shunt out the door. It's an experience. And the tech is one part of it. Okay, so wonderful. Amazing people have developed the journeys, the web experience. But it's more than that. It goes. My team is both in the field and service, and so what you see there is you see a really knowledgeable in-field experience from my salespeople, which is really carefully and creatively and collaboratively backed up with service people behind who are all in the same team. Now that's unique in the industry. And the reason that's so important is they're all working towards the same goal, which is serving the advisor and serving the client and making sure that the right stuff gets done. And that's so different from what we do what's done elsewhere. You usually have service people in the back and they're throwing stones, at the distribution people in the front and vice versa. And what we've done is get rid of that. And it's exceptional. We've got we're still reasonably small. We've got fewer than 200 advisors regularly using the platform, but we've just done our first survey, and the feedback is phenomenal. To give you an idea, our Net Promoter Score came back at 74, which we are absolutely delighted with. That's right up there with the likes of Alan Gray and 91. It's one's below that and one's above that. So when you look at stats like that, you're getting it right. You're taking a long time to get there, but you're getting it right, and you're getting it right because there's an experience behind it. It's not just a platform. It's the webinars. it's, as you rightly say, and they're so popular, those webinars. I hosted one 2 weeks ago with David Pullen, who's a wonderful storytelling expert. Phil Billingham was on a couple of weeks before that with me, a wonderful, brilliant advisor working both in South Africa and here, very prominent in the FPI world. And it goes on and on and on with brilliant content that we craft very carefully and put together, which goes hand in hand with the experience you're getting online through the platform. So that's what it's about. It is no longer about using a product and delivering it to my client. It's much more about how do I make you feel? And that's what most advisors are feeling with their clients. How can I make you feel safe, less anxious, like you trust me? And we're just mirroring that and making you look good through it.
Yeah, that's so important. I always say like that is our job. Like if I do, for instance, just in my world, a consulting job, or I do, you help people put things together. It's not about me. It's about making them look good, right?
Yeah.
It's about helping them achieve what they want to achieve. You achieve together with them. You don't it's not like we need to stand up there and say, thank you very much for the award, and there we go. Like if they get the award, we're as excited for them. And if we can get that right, that's what it's, and that's why everybody asks me, like, what was your highlight for the Speaker Influencer program? I'm like, just seeing everybody win at the end of the day. That was for me, like, I'm not talking about the winners of the awards themselves. I'm just talking about people that saw through the growth they had, the achievements. So many wanted to pull out like before still the day before. They were like, I don't know if I can do this. And then they push through, and it's the same with us, in my opinion. So I'm fully on that. Who do you see as your client, Georgina? Is it the person with the money who invests, or is it the advisor? Who do you see as your client?
Yeah, I mean, very much we're there to work in partnership with the advisor, but obviously the client is the most important person in this relationship. But with advisors today, it's a very different world from what we used to see in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, where perhaps people weren't working in the best interest of the client for whatever reasons. These days, I think advisors more and more are much more aligned to much more transparent, working much more transparently with clients, and that's the way we want to work as well. It's about disclosure. It's about showing the advisors, helping them to show their clients the value they add, and playing it for them to play in the right place as well. So I don't think these days we struggle, certainly with the cohort of advisors that we look after. We don't really struggle with any sort of conflict, if you like, between the alignment of who we're actually looking after.
And I mean, obviously, it's a pity I can't see the platform today. But one of the things that I do want to ask you is, like, man, what are these? So if you built this platform inspired by advisors, getting a lot of input from these advisors, being with them in the room, understanding, sort of what it is, bringing, and I fully believe, and I've said this too many times probably on the show, that the future expectations and future services and future sort of way of engaging that clients will expect from us is going to come from elsewhere. It's not going to come from within financial services or financial planning or the financial profession. It's going to come from other industries, other professions, other areas. And now, like, bringing dentistry, what you learned there, to financial services. And that's what I'm really talking about. But what are the things that advisors really need, to be successful, if you think about where we are today? So very virtual, some things are going back to face, but that's also going to be different. But what do we need, and what do financial planners need today in their businesses to take it to the next level and to make sure that they survive and that they become sustainable and very profitable in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, Francois, because more and more the successful advisors are the ones having the conversations with the clients that aren't about fund picking, that aren't about going to this portfolio or that portfolio. That's always going to be there, but it's a small part. It's the ones that address and have that conversation. And, very much like Louis was saying earlier, that value add conversation that helps me trust you. And the key thing there in that conversation is helping the client get comfortable and remove anxiety around the place of, have I got enough? Have I got enough to do the thing that I want to do, whatever it is? So understanding what the goals are, and I'm no financial advisor, so I'm not even going to pretend that I can go down that route, but having a much more human conversation for me, and we used to do the same in dentistry, and I'll give you an example in a moment, but having a much more human conversation as opposed to a fund picking financial conversation is always going to be more successful. And the example I'd love to give you is, we could have people coming into our surgery wanting their teeth to look better. And you can just go look at their mouth and you can say, okay, well, we can put 6 veneers on at the front and you're going to look better. Or you can say to the patient, okay, well, why do you want to do this? Oh, well, it's my daughter's wedding in 6 months' time. Oh, okay. And what do you want to do? And what do you want to be able to say at the end of this wedding? Okay, well, I want to look nice in the photographs. Okay. So how do you feel at the moment? How do you feel you look at the moment? Well, could you bring us a photograph and talk me through how you feel at the moment about how your mouth looks? Okay. Now, so what would you like it to look like? How about we draw it up on a model for you? How about we actually agree what we think it should look like? And then we can choose the color together. Do you see the difference in conversation as opposed to, there's treatment, let me do it, let me go out? It's exactly the same in financial services with clients. It's much more about, removing anxiety and building trust, as opposed to fund picking, asset management, all of those kind of things. So that's very much a skill. Now, where I come from is the tech that sits behind it that makes you look good, because you can have as many wonderful conversations as you like with your clients, but if your tech lets you down, then nobody's happy. So I'm here in the background with the investment platform to say, okay, let's make your life as easy as possible. And let's be clear with this, Francois. There's only 2 reasons why a financial advisor is going to want to use our platform. And the first one is, does it improve my client value proposition? Well, I think we do in the value add ways we've talked about, those webinars, the engagement we have in the field, the service that sits with that engagement in the field. That's kind of the improvement in the client value proposition, helping the advisor look good on that front. But the second reason someone's going to choose to use my investment platform is, am I going to remove cost from your business, from my business? Am I going to save you money? Now here, absolutely, because time is money. We're going to save you time, and these are digital journeys. There's no paperwork. There's no rekeying. That's the crux of where we add value to an advisor's business in the real nuts and bolts. That real kind of, if you're going to get right down to the nitty gritty, that's exactly where we add value. We remove cost from your business. We save you time. And then all of that other stuff is helping improve your client value proposition.
Yeah, no, I really like that. But can I just ask, Georgina, that when you're done with this, can you and I please go and help doctors do the same thing? Have different conversations, get to know their patients, understand, care. And I don't say they don't care, but yes, sometimes, like I always say, I've got to do something in that space to help them just be like, just talk to people like they don't understand, your Latin words and all of those kind of things. And it's so important that if we can have the right conversations and connect at the right level and really have the time to pay attention to what the other person is telling us and sharing with us, because often it's intimate stuff that they are talking about and things that makes them uneasy probably, or things that's very near and dear to their hearts, because that's where you get to understand why they do certain things or why they don't do certain things. So having this and you helping through everything that you do, plus the platform, sort of to enable all of that, I think is a fantastic journey and something to be very, very proud of. Is definitely doing something differently. And I want to ask you, so if I'm interested to work with you, with your platform, etc., what is that process and where do I find out more and things like that?
Well, absolutely. So there's a website, which is innate.co.za. All our contact details are on there. There's our Innate Invest, and there's the platform, and obviously I'm under the platform piece, which and we can spend another hour if you like talking about Innate Invest. But yeah, so get in touch with me there. I'm available. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So please, I'm very happy to chat and have people get in touch with me there. So please do get in touch through one of those ways. We'd be delighted to help you.
Of course. Awesome stuff. Yes, I didn't even get to Innate Invest, which is your DFM, right?
Yeah.
So that's a discretionary fund manager as well. But I think, the first logical step is get in touch. I can promise you, Georgina is very open and she loves to chat. And, she would definitely answer you if you send a message on LinkedIn. And that's the thing, right? So everybody asks, where can people get hold of you? Like LinkedIn is the best place. You don't even have to ask anymore. Just go to LinkedIn.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
Awesome.
Anyone worth their salt will respond to you quickly on LinkedIn.
Yes. Georgina, anything you want to end off with? Maybe just something you have on your heart, something you want to share, be it about anything Innate or just a thought, anything you want to end off with?
I think it goes back to the feeling of loneliness that you opened the show with today. I've seen, when I think about some of the conversations I was having, or the majority of the conversations I was having before COVID, it was mostly about selling ethically and making sure that, practices were being, or advisor practices were as profitable as possible. And probably 20%, 80% was that, and 20% was, I'm stressed, I'm burnt out, I don't know what to do. Since COVID, it's completely reversed the other way. I definitely see a lot more people saying, I'm stressed, I'm burnt out, my staff are stressed, they're burnt out. And probably only 20% is, help me be more profitable and all of those kind of things. And I just like to just say, be kind to yourself, be kind. You've come this far. And I think the financial advisors, certainly that I interact with, are doing an amazing job. And please don't feel like you're on your own. Reach out. We'd be delighted to chat to you and help you build your business.
Awesomeness. Georgina, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Amazing talking to you. And I think we will definitely make a plan to chat a bit more about Innate Invest as well. But thank you very much for your time. Wishing you well and have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend too.
All right, and just like that, we've come to the end of the show, and hope you enjoyed it. Just a reminder that next week, Friday, we will be broadcasting live from the UK. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag from where, but I promise you it's going to be something really magnificent. Ek weet nie, wat is indrukwekkend? That's a good Afrikaans word. So for the English people, learn that. Indrukwekkend, but magnificent, I guess, is the proper English for that. We'll be back same time, same place. So have a good weekend. Stay safe, be blessed and prosper. And remember to raise the bar. Love you lots. Bye-bye.